Hello everyone, welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Adam, welcome back, man. This is actually my first episode that I've done since I left for vacation. I'm excited to be back. Now, I wasn't too excited about what we saw today, which we're going to obviously talk about. College football is obviously on right now, and a lot of people might have forgot that the USMNT were playing. But I spent 2 hours of my time watching this game. We're going to dive into that. But first of all, how you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Hope vacation was good.
It was good. It was good to get
Nice.
away for a little bit. And,
Yeah.
I wish I would have came back on a more positive note today. But sadly, we lost 2-1 to Canada. It's a friendly. It doesn't really mean anything, but it's still, a little concerning. But before we get into that, because you and I did this live stream almost a month ago about Pochettino being the manager, and that still hasn't even been officially announced yet, man. Like that kind of plays into the chaos today because it just feels like, what are we doing? What's going on? What's happening at the soccer federation? It just feels like there's all this uncertainty going on right now, and I feel like that played into a lot of what we saw on the field today.
Yeah, totally fair point, right? It feels like, I would imagine it feels like if, your English teacher gets fired in the middle of the year, right? And you got a sub for a few weeks, like you're probably not like really driving your performance forward in that class until there's a permanent teacher. It's weird though, because sometimes interim coaches, right? We saw it with BJ, like get something different out of a group of guys. And so, and I don't think that's, somebody on Twitter said, because I kind of said, hey, listen, like, here's the thing, right? Like, Greg left the program in a rough spot. The leadership, everything was just kind of, we saw it this summer. It all played out. It just played out in a way that you kind of saw everything come to a head. Everything that had been boiling just kind of, fully boiled out of the pot this summer. And now, how do you turn around 2 months later with no time together, right? A ton of rumors circling, right? Like Pochettino's the coach. Well, Mikey Varas is going to be the coach. Maybe Pochettino isn't the coach. It'll be signed at some point. There's a Chelsea thing going on. They want more money. Maybe Poch is going to leverage for more money. Like, players hear that stuff, right? And so I think from a player standpoint, it's like, all right, like, when are we going to, like, there's probably some trepidation. There's probably some hesitation, right? And I say that because I'm going to crush the players for the rest of this episode, right? So I'll give like a brief caveat that yes, I get that's hard, but at the end of the day, Will, what was really sad, I didn't care about the result, right? I said last night on a different show, I said the result doesn't matter to me, right? What I want to see is like, are the guys going to start to take some pride in the things that had really fallen off this summer? Tactically, I knew we'd be weird, a mess. Like, you're just not going to, it's going to be hard sometimes for a coach to like capture tactics and tactical changes that need to happen. But could Varas get them focused on playing harder, playing together, supporting each other? And those are all things we just failed at. I'm sure we'll get into a lot of it, but like, we just failed massively in the first half to do any of those things. Canada came out getting stuck in, like absolutely bringing the game to us, playing really hard. I mean, but you have to know, as players, you have to know they're going to do that, right? I mean, they want that game, not as a friendly. They want that game because they want to prove something always. And they have more motivation because Jesse Marsch feels snubbed, and we've seen him on a million podcasts, it feels like, in the last year of his life, like talking about the USMNT. And so to just be like totally unprepared, it felt like, for the level of intensity, and to not even be able to like muster any intensity until I think we saw some life in the second half, was really sad and says a lot about like where these players and where the culture of U.S. soccer, men's soccer, is currently.
Yeah, and like you said, we're going to delve into the players more specifically, but just to generalize the performance, it felt very sloppy, and it felt like these players just didn't care. Like, they treated it like a meaningless game and that they didn't really want to be there. And you would think, Adam, which this kind of, circles back to the point about Pochettino, if he's, when's he going to sign, when's he going to be announced? You would think that these players, man, would be wanting to perform, to like make a name for themselves, to try to
Yeah.
like stick out. And because as a coach yourself, and obviously following all kinds of sports your entire life, you know that when there's a coaching change, that some players kind of get like a little a boost because they get a chance to reprove themselves or maybe get into good favor with the new coaching staff and maybe get a spot solidified. Everything is wide open again when you start from a clean slate, and I just didn't feel like really anybody was giving that type of effort today.
No, and in the midfield, I was excited about the midfield because I was like, man, you got three midfielders with a lot to prove and a lot to earn. And it's like, three guys with the path to being starters by 2026. I'm not going to say that's like my prediction, but like certainly Tillman's really young and getting better and has a path to becoming a starter with this national team, especially with Gio's continued injuries, continued club form. Weston McKennie is always up and down. Yunus Musa absolutely has a path. And we know Johnny has a path with Tyler's injuries and his inconsistency. So like to see that group specifically, just like honestly kind of look lifeless. Like I barely noticed Yunus Musa was on the field. He was kind of a just total non-factor.
Forgotten man, right? He's just a forgotten guy. He just
totally forgotten, right?
Yeah.
Like I actually thought Tillman had some nice moments in the first half. The ball to Ballo that led to the Pulley chance, really the only chance it felt like of the game up until whatever when we subbed. That was like nice, and he had a couple other nice passes. He looked calm on the ball. I wouldn't say it was like a standout performance, but it was good. It was a positive, better than he had been. And then Johnny was horrific, man. Like, and a couple people on Twitter were like, "What do you mean horrific?" I was like, "Dude, like 4 minutes into the game, he passed the ball to the other team, like a simple pass to the other team." And it led to that like flip ball over to David, and Schulte made the nice save. But like that was just pure giveaway. Nothing. We wasn't even being pressured that hard at that point, right? And just like handed it to them. Then he loses Eustaquio, right? It's like there's two guys, but like he was the lower player, and he kind of Eustaquio just kind of squeezes between them, and he just kind of like backing up and just gives this like pathway where there should be no pathway to pass to Eustaquio. He kind of turns and is like, holy crap, I'm basically one-on-one with the keeper from 15 yards out, and luckily missed the shot. And then we saw it all come to a head. Reem played the through ball with him, and bugged out. There was nobody within 5 yards. Like there was pressure coming, but he kind of just like stabbed at the ball like a third grader. And all of a sudden, and that's typically how it happens, right? That's why like I'm less concerned about errors that lead to goals, and I'm more concerned about amount of errors. Because you can make 7 of those and it doesn't lead to a goal because you get lucky, right? Or you can make one of those and it leads to a goal, and that's kind of like sucks, It's like, and for Johnny, it was just like over and over and over again for the first 30. I thought he settled into the game a little bit after that, but like just not even close to the standard. So those guys, like, I don't know. And Tillman's effort wasn't special. Like, just, I don't know.
Well, you just brought up a great point too, and it kind of fits that narrative, like I said, about starting from a clean slate, new coaching staff, going to be able to build yourself back up. Everybody starting off at the same within the at the beginning at the same spot. You just named Gio Reyna, who is consistently hurt and has been inconsistent on the pitch. This is perfect time for Tillman to try to take his spot. Right, it's up for grabs. He didn't really do anything. No. And then you said McKennie, a guy who looks to be out of shape, not playing very well, kind of looks checked out, which is sad because he's only 25 years old. That is not the time to be doing this. So you give a Musa a chance to take his spot. You don't even notice he's on the field. And then Tyler Adams, who is good when he plays, but he has an injury bug as well. He gets injured a lot. You have Johnny finally get a chance to start, prove himself. Obviously, he played really well at Betis last year in La Liga, and looks like he might get a transfer, some point to Tottenham. He doesn't do well either. He kind of lays an egg. So you go 0 for 3, on 3 guys who have a chance to really push these other guys out of a starting role, and they completely flopped and they laid an egg. That's very concerning, not just because of you're expecting these guys to start, but this is a depth issue. Obviously, you want to have competition to make everybody better. And I just think I don't want to be too dramatic, but I do think there's a cause for concern with what we've seen.
No doubt. And like, just being honest, and I'm going to go all the way up to the chain to a guy I've backed, I've backed this guy to the end of the world, but like Christian Pulisic, like it's time to grow up. You're not 17, not even 22 anymore. Like, you are a vet. You are the vet on this team. You are the guy playing the highest level established soccer, and you're playing well at a high level. You've been through a lot of wars. You've been through, the team not making the World Cup. You've been through Champions Leagues. You've been through the growth of the team. You've been through a World Cup group stage. You've been through failure at Copa. You've been through a lot. And like, it's time, like somebody in the program needs to help him understand what leading is. And I'm like, I don't think he's like a horrific leader at all times, but in a moment like that first half, he's whining, he's complaining, he's throwing his hands up. He's like looking for somebody to bail him out. There's no like leadership in terms of like the way he is acting. The way he's acting is not leading, right? And that's the first thing you always have to do as a leader is you have to lead by example. You have to lead by what you do and who you are. And if I was a young player, there are a lot of young guys on the court, on the field. Lund on his side, right? The midfield we talked about, Johnny and Musa. Those guys aren't young or aren't old guys. Musa's 21. Tillman's 22. Like, these are new to the environment, right? Like, they're going to be looking at him. And if I looked at him the whole first half, well, like, I also would have been like, oh man, this isn't going well, right? And like, we need him to become a guy that is like solid. And it doesn't mean he never can complain. No, but like, you can't just be whining a whole half, pouting a whole half, right? And like, so really, really poor from Pulisic. I expect drastically more from him, not even in terms of his play, just in terms of like the attitude and the heart he's going to bring. Like, I know he plays hard. He wasn't not playing hard tonight, but like, it's got to become more, right? He's got to grow into more. He can't be the 22-year-old forever. He's got to start to really lead.
No, and obviously there's all kinds of different coaching styles, right? There's coaches that kind of let their players play. There's obviously people that are more on the tactical side. There's players that are coaches that like to fire their players up and light a fire under them. I think that they need someone. I think Poch has got to light a fire under these guys. He's got to hold them accountable, and he's got to get them to show some grit, some passion. I am so tired of seeing this team on cruise control. I feel like this team is literally the go through the motions team. They're just doing what they have to do. They don't ever lay it on the line, and they're just cool. Win, lose, or draw, they're cool with what goes on. They'll complain and bitch about it occasionally, like you said, but there's no warriors on this team. There's no warriors on this team.
Not right now. No. And I mean, to be honest, it's what's really worrying, right? Is like, I think we had this vision of what this team could be, post COVID. It started to come together. We got the Musa commitment. We had gotten the Dest commitment before COVID. And it started to be like, wow, this is a really young crew that, like, if you followed European soccer closely, you're like, these guys are all going to get sold to big clubs. Like, it was inevitable that Musa would get sold to a bigger club. It was inevitable that Pulisic would step up from Dortmund. It was inevitable that Dest would, that would have a path to high level clubs, right? McKinney, same thing. And so there was this excitement at that time of like, man, like, what if two of these guys become like a dude, like a real dude, not a Messi, but like, could they become like like a Dzeko, or like a player that's really good in Europe, maybe not the best of the best, but a star. Like, I would call that a star, like somebody who's a star. And it's like, it didn't happen, right? Like, I think like we looked at Hazard for Pulisic when he went to Chelsea, and we're like, he could do that. Like, he's 20. He's certainly, if you followed Eden Hazard's career, like, Pulisic wasn't much different as a U20 player. And it was like, that was so exciting for all of us. And I think what's happened, right, is like, all of our guys have gone to Europe. They've all played at really high levels. And with that comes a little bit of ego, especially when they come back to CONCACAF, come back to the national team. Hey, I play at AC Milan, right? I've seen this with basketball players. I play at UMass. I play it here. And it's like, I was a D3 player. I would go, bust a kid who's playing at UMass's ass and pick up, mainly because he wouldn't play hard. He'd be like, this D3 kid. He'd take me for granted. And I just feel so much of that with our team. Like, and I think this summer being a different beast, right? We had played hard against England. We did play hard against Netherlands. Like, playing hard wasn't the issue, right? It was more, to me, it was more like tactical, and are we approaching these games the right way? Now it's like almost, I don't know, like Badge FC is like making these guys, and we're all just theorizing, right? We have no idea. Like, Badge FC is making these guys be like, well, Canada playing some MLS guys. They don't have as many, even tonight, right, without a lot of our core guys, right, you could still look at the badges and be like, yeah, we got the advantage from like the club badge perspective, but who cares? Like, nobody cares. Like, literally no one cares, guys, and you've got to go play hard. And
You know we've
that's
lost,
lost.
Adam? We've lost the chip on our shoulder.
Oh, facts for sure.
We've lost the chip on our shoulder. We used to be the national team with a chip on our shoulder where everybody
Right.
considered us out, and now we have this entitlement where we think we're the best that there is in CONCACAF, which maybe we are, but we don't play like we are. We play like we not to throw a college football reference today, but Northern Illinois went into Notre Dame and beat them, which is a crazy upset because Notre Dame probably took them lightly and didn't think they could even compete. They could cruise control win. And I believe we have that mindset that we are so talented and better than Trinidad and Tobago or Costa Rica or Honduras or Canada that we don't have to try our hardest. We will beat them just on sheer talent.
These guys are being told from a young age they're really good, all of them. And that's so different than like what was Clint Dempsey doing at 19, I can tell you this, he wasn't being told by the world that he's really good at soccer, right? Like Donovan kind of was, but like Donovan saw it a chip because he still went to Europe and was kind of treated like garbage. And like people said he didn't belong and he had to go back to MLS. So there's all these guys had chips for some reason or another, in my opinion, right? There's nothing to really give a lot of these guys a chip, right? Like it's come kind of, I wouldn't say it's come easy in terms of they just floated to the top, but like they've kind of all made it to high levels with relative ease, right? Without, the chip on the shoulder would be like, Chelsea didn't think you were good enough, Christian. Well, it's like, that's so much different than like people say you can't play in Europe, like it's just so different. So yeah, there's something there. I also just, when I see the team, they just feel like a broken unit to me. Like I've coached a couple broken units, right? That just got broken through the years for whatever reason. Like my last year was like injuries. We just had so many injuries. Over half the team went down and the team was just broken, man. Like I was like fighting to keep them relatively motivated, confident, etc. day in and day out. It was like a losing battle as a coach, right? I've had other years where it's just like we thought we were going to be so good, and very clearly 5 games in, we weren't going to be that good. It was like, oh, okay. I thought we were going to like coast to like 15 to 20 wins. It's like, guys, I told you, we might win 10. So there's all these things that can throw teams off, right? And whatever it is, you can just see in this unit right now, they're thrown off. And it's like deep seated. It's not 5 players, right? It's like it feels like whoever we throw on the field, that starting lineup today was drastically different than Copa in a lot of ways, right? And it still had the same feel as like that whole Copa window.
Well, do you think that this is an interesting point you bring up? Do you think that maybe even if there's players that are definitely more talented, right? As a coach, you coach for years, Adam. Sometimes that it's not necessarily all about having the best players on your team. Sometimes it's more about just having the best fit for the team, right? The best players that mesh together, that are willing to do the grunt work, or that just the chemistry, right? I'm wondering if Poch comes in here, maybe takes a couple guys out, not because they're not good, brings a couple guys in because something's broken in the nucleus, and that they need to rework this and try to, build the foundation up, shake things up, because there's clearly, like you said, something broken, and maybe it has to do with a couple players that it's just not working out, even though the talent is there, and maybe they are one of the best 23 or 26 now, but it's just for the team, it's just not the right fit.
For sure. That's the stuff. It's hard for us to know. We're not in training every day. We're not, a lot of that stuff lives behind the scenes even, it's like sussing that stuff out is so hard. Like even our athletic director some years would be like, Adam, why aren't you playing this guy? And I'm like, God, Chris, he's just like a locker room cancer right now. Like total, I don't know if he even has a future in the program. He's a locker room cancer. He's got so much to figure out in terms of like what type of teammate he's being, his day in, day out practice effort. Nobody sits and watches 2 hours of practice. They just don't. Like, unless you're closely tied with it, you just don't do that. And if you checked in for 20 minutes of some of our practices, you'd be like, well, yeah. But like us as coaches, we're like, man, that guy just has not brought it all week. Doesn't mean he's never brought it, or he in a rep here or there. If you're watching casually, you wouldn't be like, man, he's talented. But like we're looking for like effort in transition runs. We're looking for effort moving off the ball. We're looking for effort boxing out, right? I'm giving basketball stuff, but like we're looking for such minute details and as coaches, you have a fine-tuned eye for it, right? And you understand what the expectations and standards are, and you're trying to set them with players. I don't want to have that eye with soccer. I don't, a little bit, but like not that much. And two, I'm not there every day, day in and day out in training, right? So like these are the kind of things that a really high-level coach is going to obsess over, and they're going to, from training number one. I don't think they're going to leave anybody out right away. I think a high-level coach is going to want to see the group under them, right? Because sometimes players are just different for certain coaches too, and certain motivational styles and systems, and totally shift a player's, POV. But other players might not respond to it. And so, yeah, like we might have some stuff under a new manager where it's like, why is that guy being left out? Like, I know he's one of our best players. And that's why early in Berhalter's tenure, I didn't obsess over lineups. A lot of people did, and I kind of argued with people back in those days, and I got like, you're the MLS shill and all that stuff. It's 2019. And I'm like, nah, guys, like we just got to give him a year, man. And I'm going to be the same way with Poch, and people are going to do the same thing. Like, oh, you're such a hypocrite. You criticize every one of Berhalter's lineups. And like, I didn't for a year and a half. Like, I didn't. I gave him a year and a half to try and figure this stuff out. But so anyway, I think that like you hit on a really good point though, which is like, there's a lot of like the behind the scenes coaching stuff that is going to be the most important. Tactics, system, all of that is actually secondary to like reestablishing a culture, reestablishing what the, we need an Argentinian to come in here and tell us what it means to be American in terms of like our soccer, right? Which we do. Like, we just need somebody to be like, hey, I watched American soccer for years, guys. This is what I always saw. Check out these clips. And you could play clips from the last 5 games. I could give you 20 that I've seen. I posted one today. Well, I don't know if you saw it, but I encourage everybody to go check out my timeline. And I posted, it was the move. It was an awesome move. We turned them over in the midfield. It was 2-3 passes. It was over to Ballo. Ballo kind of, left-footed it over to Pooley, tiny bit too far. Great offensive move. But then I watched it back. I was like, man, I want to watch that move back. And I noticed there wasn't one other U.S. player. You could see on the field, you could see the 18, you could see out to 25. There was not one other U.S. player within 25 yards of the box when Pulisic chested it and hit that shot. Which, like, you could take the approach of, well, it didn't matter anyway. Sure, but it says everything about effort. It says everything. If you have both sides, offense, defense, if you have players into the box right there, 3-4 trailing, that's the level of effort any coach would expect in soccer. No coach doesn't want us to flood the box as the ball goes over the top, right? And we had like 7 guys on that half of the field when the move began. That means 5 of them didn't budge. Like, whoa, like what happens if Pulisic shots deflected to the top of the box? That's a potential goal. Like, you need, and that's an effort play though, right? That's everybody standing around watching going, okay. And it's the same thing. I posted some videos in the Copa, or I think maybe from the pre-Copa friendlies with like the same, it's a virus. It's like not, going to the ball, not if you get beat, not tracking back hard, not putting bodies into both boxes. And that feels like 3rd grade, 4th grade soccer, man. Like,
yeah, no, I agree 100%. And another thing too, that still puzzles me, and I posted about this, Adam. How the hell is Tim Ream still a part of this team, man? Listen, I respect the hell out of Tim Ream. I think he's very good. He is a guy that you can say had a chip on his shoulder. He played in MLS until like 2011. He made the move at 24 to Europe, and he had a great career at Fulham and an underdog story, right? So I think that he is maybe that's why he did perform so well in big games, or perform overall when he got called into the Greg Berhalter era, because of the chip on his shoulder. And obviously he got passed up a lot by Jurgen. But why is he still part of the cycle at 38? This is right now in these games is when you, like Schulte playing today, which we'll talk about him in a second, but right now is when you need to get kind of weird, experiment, and play with. But Tim Ream, obviously he's 38 years old. Right now is just the time to kind of get weird, experiment with a couple of things, give a player a chance, man. That, when else what's a better opportunity to give him a chance than in a friendly, and try to figure out maybe who that next player is going to be that could be the next starting center back replacing Ream, because he's 38 years old. He's not going to be around forever. And 2026 is at least the World Cup is less than 2 years away. We have to get that figured out sooner than later.
Yeah, starting him remains really confusing. I mean, the only The only explanation is leadership, right? And I think it's fine to call him into the camp for that. But I just think in these friendlies, like that's why the result doesn't really matter that much to me, right? I want to say that, like losing to Canada in a friendly without Dest, McKinney, Geo, on and on, right? We're missing a bunch of guys. Jedi, right? A bunch of our best guys weren't there. It doesn't matter. I don't care about that. I'm never going to remember that, or care, right? And I've been somebody who's advocated for friendlies mattering when we're playing Germany, right? When we've had an opportunity to play really good teams, I think it matters because we never get to play them. So we should be playing to win with our best players if we're playing Germany, right? But if we're playing Canada, like, listen, it's almost like a preseason game. Like, save your best stuff. Preseason NFL, right? We've been watching that recently. Like, teams aren't even running their plays because they don't want to be scouted, and like that's kind of how I feel. Like, I don't care. You don't need to play your best against Canada. If they want to run out there and play it like a cup final, cool. Get us some new blood in there and tell those guys to play hard, right? And then the expectation is play really hard. Let's see who's who and what they have, right? Like, Poach, plenty of film on Ream. We don't need more film on Ream. Poach has plenty of film on Ream coming in. He can figure out what he wants to do with Ream, right? And that's kind of the way I felt about even someone like Lund versus Wiley. I'm like, man, I want to see Wiley in that game. And I thought Lund, it's not even a statement on Lund. It's just we have seen Lund already. We've seen what he can do, right? Let's see somebody new, right? Aronson's the same way. We've got 5 years of Brendan Aronson and what he does. We get it. We know what he does. Might even be a really useful sub for us, right? A lot of people want to drop him off the roster totally. I'm not even advocating for that yet. Like, I think he could totally, but Poach can watch the film and see what he does, right? Let's see somebody different up there. Haji has very little film as a winger with the USMNT. Let's get Haji in. He's been playing really well at a decent level. Like, so there was just a lot from a lineup perspective. There was a lot of really uncreative kind of run it back type things that it's picking nits here because at the end of the day, just play hard. But like, I would have liked to have seen all those different things. And Ream is a part of that, in my opinion, where it's like, bring him into camp, let him lead from the back. Don't know if we really need to see more of him, right? And like, let me just say this too, because I don't want to forget this because this is big. I've been a massive Chris Richards guy. I backed Chris Richards I thought he should have been playing more in the World Cup qualifying cycle. And I don't want to own that I was wrong about that because I think he's had some good performances for the USMNT, but he's been really bad. He was bad today. Like, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, he took a terrible angle on a Jonathan David near goal. Like, terrible. Like, didn't make any sense. Like, he was running for the ball. Clearly, David was about to get it and go, and then he was behind the 8 ball. He could have cut him off, right? Just like simple little center back angle things. Passed the ball away multiple times. Was just, I don't know, man, like lackadaisical and kind of not the sharp guy that I've seen when he's at his best. So I just want to call that out, that like we are getting underperformance from so many guys. And that's almost like you talked about, like what's Poach's like number one job. Well, number one job is like reestablish the culture, get us to play hard, right? Like bring back an identity. The number two job, right, is like even ahead of like figure out who your best guys are and which role guys. It's like actually number two is like get guys to play up to their potential. So many guys playing below their potential, and I know this because I watch them for club, man. Like, I know what they can do when they're at their best, and they're not bringing it for the national team. And honestly, if they're not going to do it, and you can't get them to get there as a coach, right? He's going to give them a shot. He's going to give them a couple camps. Then you got to replace them, and it sucks, but it is what it is. Like,
It feels like that's a common theme that we have all these guys who are very good for club and just completely underperform for country. And that just can't be, that cannot be the what how it is or the result if we want to succeed. And one of the players that I was looking forward to talking to you about today was Patrick Schulte. Now, Mikey, Mikey obviously coached a lot of these guys at the U20 level, a lot of these players. And Patrick Schulte is one of the players that has a relationship with Mikey. And I was curious to see how he did today. Goalkeeper is kind of a question mark right now. We don't really have a surefire starter right now. Matt Turner has struggled to get minutes. Zach Steffen has been MIA for several years. He's kind of out of the fold altogether. Ethan Horvath was underwhelming when he played in Copa America. I think that this job is open for grabs, and I think Schulte's the guy who could do it. Now, obviously, there's going to be some fans that are going to say, well, there's absolutely no way in hell I would start Schulte because he plays in MLS. I don't care about that. I just want someone who's good and reliable in goal. And I think Schulte could do that. And I think that, like you said, Richards and Ream and even Cardosa had a couple of bad giveaways that led to some chances. The defense and the midfield did him no favors today and left him on an island. And I think, with all considered, he had a pretty good game.
In my opinion, they actually did him favors, which is crazy enough. And I'll explain. I think if you're logical, you don't look at either of those goals and blame him. That's insane. Like, those were not goals you would expect any keeper to save, right? Where they did him a favor, right? Well, I kind of twisted your words a little bit there, is they did him a favor because they gave him a bunch of opportunities to look special, you know? Like, if the front line or if the back line had a really good game, he probably doesn't get many of those saves. And it's like, well, I don't know what we have with Patrick Schulte, right? But, like, dude look special, man. Like, you could run 3 or 4 of those saves back, and they're like class saves, absolute class saves. So loved his game today. Absolutely. I mean, to me, he looked like what Matt Turner used to be just today. I know it's a 1-game sample, but like stopping shots all over the place, hero 1v1s, like that was like the best of Matt Turner, you know, and what we, kind of what we saw out of him in the Brazil game for sure, but what we used to see regularly out of Matt Turner. And playing goalie in MLS, listen, I've argued with people for years about this. I'm sure people will be in the comments about it. Playing goalie in the MLS is not that much different than playing goalie anywhere. And people say, oh my gosh, but Adam, there's so many better shots in Europe and so many better scores. And like, agreed. Yes, there are for sure. But at the end of the day, like, the defense isn't very good in MLS. And there is a lot of pressure on goalies constantly. Like, that is a theme if you watch MLS, in my opinion. Like, and so you were getting battle tested. You were getting into 1v1s. You were getting, guys, and like MLS, listen, like a 1v1 shot from 10 yards is a 1v1 shot from 10 yards. Will a striker in Europe finish it at a higher percentage? I would bet, right? If they're at a really good club, like the rate of player is better there for sure. But at the end of the day, I'm still facing shots and pressure, and I have to save shots. And I saw a stat today. They posted it in the game. And it was like, I don't even know what save rate or I don't even know what the stat was, but it was like basically he's the best shot stopper in MLS. And he's like 30% above anyone else.
35. Yeah, they said he was 30. They said Schulte was at 35%, and that Matt Turner in his best season when he won goalkeeper of the year was at 15%. So he's way higher than Matt Turner even at his best.
And second highest is like 7%. I actually put in my phone. I want to look up what the stat is. I know the best stat I've seen is it's basically like expected goals saved, right? It's kind of like okay, we expect that X amount of goals. It's post shot XG, right? So like post shot XG in terms of where the ball actually goes in the net, right? We know, okay, in this game, the post shot XG said they should have 2.5 goals, right? But they had 2. So you basically saved 0.5 goals, right? That's a stat I've heard a lot. I've never heard the one they used today. I'm sure it's whatever, probably something similar. Goalkeeper stats are tough, and they're not always foolproof, but certainly it shows that he's a good shot stopper, and he's one of the better shot stoppers in MLS right now. And I would bet he gets a chance. He's a young player. I bet he gets a chance to go abroad and play at higher levels. So my eyes open for sure. Like, that position is totally open. So to me, he put his name in a big hat today, and to me, he did what I think we're hoping other players would have done, which is make a statement and level up and show something that they hadn't before. My guy that did that today, in my opinion, and he's been doing it for clubs since he moved to, I think, where's Morris playing? Second division, England, third?
Yeah, second division.
Championship? Is he championship?
Championship, yep.
Yeah, so in what club? I have to look it up. Sorry, I actually
Is
watched
it Nottingham or Middlesbrough?
Middlesbrough, I think that's.
I think it's Middlesbrough.
my brain's like going numb. I watched him play 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Middlesbrough. Yeah. So he looks really good. I thought he looked good in the club game that I watched as well. Like, just looked, I don't know, spry, confident, and then looked awesome today. I thought, I don't know, just he had an energy about him. And to me, the game changed today when we made the subs. I think he and De La Torre came on at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, like 60th minute or something like that. And the game kind of changed. Those guys
Changed everything.
Like, they brought a different energy. And like, if I'm Johnny, if I'm Musa, right? Because I think that's who they subbed in for, both of those guys. I'm kind of going, those guys came right in, and the energy of the game changed. The effort level changed. They connected on the goal, like those two players. And like, Johnny, you're at Betis, and Musa, you're at Milan. Like, you guys are supposed to be doing that all game.
It's because those guys have the chip on their shoulder, man. I believe that's what it is.
I'm New Zealand is a pointless match. I am making a point if I'm Varas, and if I'm Poch, I'm getting on the phone to him, and I'm going, nope, you start Morris and start De La Torre. We gotta the culture has to be right now. If you play well and you play hard, you're gonna play. If you're not, sit and don't come. And it's like, I don't care. Like, do I think Musa and Johnny are a big part of the future? Yes. Do I think that they need to, them along with a lot of other people need, some statements made to them? Yes. And I've never been a big advocate for like, leave him out of the roster, leave him out of the lineup. But we're at that point now where it's like, when effort's the issue, when like conviction's the issue, you need to be dropped.
100%. And that's why it has to be an earned culture where every minute has to be earned on the pitch, and you have to put consistent performances together or you're going to be left behind. Hopefully that happens. And I don't know if it was you, Adam, but someone on Twitter had posted Aiden Morris is magically a good player now because he plays in Europe. But the truth is he's always been good. It's just that people are maybe recognizing his game a little more, maybe through a different lens because of who he's playing against now. Obviously, playing in Europe is going to have a little bit more of shine and gleam to it, right? I mean, because there's just people that believe that. But Aiden Morris is the same player. He's just playing in a different league. And
so two things happen, right? One, you move to Europe. Two, when you're moving to Europe, you're also like getting older and better. So those are two things are happening in conjunction with each other, right? Do I think that going and getting out of your comfort zone is a good thing and can help a player get better? Without a doubt. That's like a very core player development tenet, right? In any organization. Like, oh, you have a really good 7th grader, play him with the 8th graders. Like that's pretty core, right? Like, so yes, he's gotten better because he moved there, or he's gotten better since he's been there. But to your point, he was good. He was good at Columbus. And he wasn't good with his previous national team performances, but stop expecting guys to come in and like be, gangbusters from the jump. That's just not how it works with national teams. Like, you've got to give guys a couple call-ups, and you've got to give them a chance to acclimate before you can start to expect performances like we saw today. And it doesn't mean he's going to come out and be the best player on the field next time. It just means this is a growth and evolution process, right? You want to go from here to here, but that journey will not look like this, right? Never, right? It will always look like that to get there, right? And like, if you go game by game and you're so reactionary that you're like, play bad, out, never back. It's like, dude, you're missing how this actually works, right? Like, but I thought he played great. And I thought De La Torre played great. De La Torre has been, from our fan base, at least, has been much maligned over the years, right? He's had some lovers and some haters. And I think he got to a point last year where he's playing in La Liga and most people are like, yeah, he actually is good. And now all of a sudden, I've heard a lot of voices flip back. Oh, see, he's not playing anymore. He's a bum. And I'm like, God, you guys are so reactionary. It's like every day is different, man. Like, the guy was just playing in La Liga a year ago and playing well. He's not a superstar. Don't over-exaggerate it, but he's a good soccer player. Certainly is a backup level player for our national team, right? Like, he can be there. So I was pumped. I was pumped to see both those guys play well. The end of the game had some nice moments, right? For me, like, and it was more of like the type of thing that was acceptable. I thought we were playing hard enough in the second half, and there was some sloppiness. You know what I'm saying? But sloppiness in this kind of environment and this kind of performance with an interim manager, I can live with that. Can't live with that first half stuff, man. Can't live with it.
No, and it puts you at a deficit that you're not going to be able to climb out of in certain games. You're gonna have to play a full 90 minutes of a competent ball and act like you want to win the game or that you want to be there. So hopefully, whenever Poch gets announced, we all thought that was going to happen by now, but it's kind of crazy. Hopefully, when he officially takes this job and he's in control, things can change. But before we part, Adam, is there any final thoughts or anything you're kind of looking forward to heading into the New Zealand match, which is on the 10th of September? Obviously, it's got to be better than what we saw in the first half. But what do you think, or what's some of your departing thoughts on that?
There's not much. I'll be honest. Right now, I'm is the lowest I've been since Kuva. I was way lower than, obviously, but it's just the lowest I've been coming out of the summer. Coming out of the hype of like, oh, we got Poch, like this is amazing. But then it's like there's just been this drag of like maybe and nervousness. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Nobody. It's almost like that thing we all want to dance around and not say, but like, is it not gonna happen? Like, and certainly today's performance doesn't help if he has other options, and it's like, maybe not. So I don't know, man. Like, I'm nervous. I'm in a kind of more of, I just want to get this done and move on and like have a new future and have like an exciting kind of forward looking mindset and not be in this like endless, abyss that we've been in my opinion, for 2.5 years now, from the time the Gio Reyna incident happened to we didn't really fire Berhalter. We're doing a search. We have interim. We have another interim. We're bringing Berhalter back. Like, it's just been this endless, like, no direction, right? Directionless, right? It's a directionless time. And the only thing I'm excited for is, can we get our manager locked up, and then can we have some direction? And this game will be like another distraction on Wednesday, and I'll try and not overreact again. But as a baseline thing, right? I told my son's a first grader, and I was coaching, in a scrimmage, his little first grade team today. And it was like, play hard, run hard. I don't care if you run the wrong way, go hard. That's how I coached first graders, like that's what we need to do with our men's national team right now. We need to coach them the same way I just coached first graders today. Absurd, right? So, fingers crossed on the Poch thing, and like, let's come back, have another conversation, knock on wood, in a month before that next camp, and let's get fired up for like what the future looks like, hopefully.
Well, maybe we'll be doing another episode soon if things look, really good or really bad against New Zealand. And last thing I'll say too, you brought up a good point. You don't have to be fast. You don't have to be strong. You don't have to be big. You don't have to be small to give effort. That's one thing you can give, no matter what your limitations are athletically or physically or whatever it may be. You can always give effort, and we need to see more of that. So, Adam, listen, man, I appreciate it as always coming on. Make sure you give Adam a follow on Twitter at USMNT. Great coverage. He's posting clips. He's breaking things down. We're definitely going to have him on more episodes. Love having Adam on for some USMNT coverage. Adam, I appreciate it, my friend. And till next time, guys. We'll see you all soon.